Hello there, Lunar Squadron. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another Star Wars Outlaws video. Today we are going to be covering a very interesting article out of IGN's IGN First coverage of Star Wars Outlaws. This one has all sorts of interesting stuff about the open world of Star Wars Outlaws, including space stations, space encounters, customization, and more. But before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, we would love to have you, and the way to do that is go down below this video, click the subscribe button, and make sure to hit the bell notification button right on next to it. It's going to let you know every single time that Nick and I post the latest and greatest Star Wars Outlaws videos here on YouTube. Also, to stay in touch with the conversation on all things Outlaws and all things Lunar Squadron, follow us on Twitter at Lunar Squadron. That said, Nick, ready to get into this one?
Always ready to talk about the war among the stars.
All right, let's get into this one. Today's article is entitled How Star Wars Outlaws Fulfills the Starship Fantasy. It is written by Matt Purslow. Nick, you want to kick us off with the first quote of relevance here?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're just going to go through the information that we found to be the most interesting and relevant from this article. There really is a ton of great new information and just a ton of great clarity on some of the stuff that we already knew and just wanted some more information about. And where I want to start is with this quote from Julian Garrity, where he says, "There's a lot to do. There's secrets to discover, there's exploration, you can scan for opportunities, and of course there'll be living world events or living space events." And the article continues by saying, "In an effort to bring the galaxy to life, a variety of NPC routines will break out into organic events. A freighter may come under attack from pirates, or the Empire may pull over a smuggling ship, and you'll be free to intervene or stay back. Wrecked ships cast out distress beacons, but are they a source of riches or a trap? It's events like these that will fill out the vacuum of space between Outlaws planets and surface gameplay." Andreas, what really excites me about this whole thing is, Julian Garrity saying there's going to be a lot of stuff for us to do in space. That is one thing that I felt LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, for example, was severely lacking. And I love this idea of organic events, because one thing that we've really been talking about when it comes to this game, and one thing that really gets us excited, is the potential for this game to feel alive on the surface, on the planets, and to hear that they're going for the same thing up in space and making just the space gameplay feel memorable and unique every time you go up there. That's really exciting.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I am concerned about with this is probably just the number of space encounters that we're going to get in space. And what I'm talking about is, if these encounters start to get repetitive, I think that this might be something that could get annoying. And obviously, I don't want to prematurely voice this concern when there isn't reason to have concern here, but this is something that I do recall having an issue with Starfield. As much as I love Starfield, Nick, I can remember just a ton of repetitive space encounters where I had the same exact thing happen multiple times, where, you know, someone would just come up and say the same thing, and it really took me out of that open world experience. And I'm just hoping that there is a variety of these random encounters in space, and that even when it's a similar situation, maybe there's different dialogue or just something to freshen it up, because that could really take me out of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I definitely think there needs to be some variety and just something that kind of breaks it up and feels different every time you go up there. And one thing that I do think will add some uniqueness to this game, something that we don't really see in any of these other Star Wars games, is this whole concept of space stations. And we get some more information about the purpose of space stations in this game, where this article says, "Between those moments, you'll likely want to find a place to moor up, stretch your legs, and scout for new opportunities. That's where space stations comes in, which function akin to the cities you'll explore planetside." There's a quote here from Garrity where he says, "There'll be a cantina, there'll be a bar, there'll be people to talk to, there'll be opportunities, there'll be sabacc tables, there'll be secrets, and there'll be explorations." This is really exciting to just see how flushed out these space stations are going to be. You know, we're going to be able to go to the cantina. We're going to be able to explore around. We're going to be able to pick up, missions, contracts, stuff like that. More stuff to do either in space or on planets. And I really like how we're going to have to go up and just explore around space to unlock more opportunities down on the surface level. It just, again, gives more incentive for players to spend time in space. And like you said, you want some of that variety. I think going into a space station, getting off the Trailblazer, and just exploring around on a non-organic thing will help a lot when it comes to the gameplay in space.
You know what, Nick? This reminds me of an argument that I remember you making many, many months, if not a couple years ago, where you said that Star Wars doesn't have enough space stations. And that reminds me of one particular episode of the Book of Boba Fett, which was really kind of just a Mandalorian episode where there was a really cool space station and a cool space station vibe. I'm hoping to get a little bit of that in this game. I really love the idea of a space station where you don't know quite what's going on the space station when you pull up to it. You don't know what the dynamics are. You don't know who's in control, who's in command of the space station. It's almost like a little politique in and of itself, almost like its own city. And so I'm really interested to see what these space station encounters are going to look like, and I can't wait to explore these. I'm really excited to hear about this one. This is one of the features out of this article that I'm most excited about personally.
Yeah, and I understand the whole concept of these planets and these cities having secrets to keep, but this whole concept of there'll be secrets to uncover on the space stations, that really made my ears perk up. I'm really excited to just see what that means. Like, is there going to be this whole mystery to uncover on these space stations, or like, a crime to solve, or, something like that? Like, your imagination can run wild there when it comes to secrets on a space station. It's just, that's a cool phrase. And another thing that I found really interesting that we learned about the open world gameplay in this article for space is just kind of the way that they conceptualize space and the way they built it. So we have this quote where they say, "We have a regulated space, that's the space that the Empire controls, which is our black space with the stars. And then we have our unregulated space, which is the dangerous part you see around the moon Tashara. You see the dust cloud, the debris fields. If you go in there, it's going to be a more dangerous. It's not Empire controlled. You will not see big freighters going in those, but there's the pirates and so forth that might attack you." And then it continues with saying, "Surrounding the planet of Akiva is a dense asteroid field which promises its own challenges. Massive refuses to detail what surrounds the remaining 3 worlds in Outlaws Galaxy, but promises each will give some fun stuff for the players to do." I think we've seen some of this. Of course, we know what the local space around Toshara looks like, and we've seen a little bit of what Akiva is going to look like. We haven't seen much of Kijimi or of Tatooine, but what I love about this is just kind of getting a look into the philosophy behind Massive here when it comes to their open world space, where, out there in the distance, that's the regulated space. That's the normal looking space. But to make it interesting, to make each planet feel unique, where, you're not just going to the same exact environment and all that looks different is the planet itself, they gave each local space area its own little bit of flavor and dangers and things to do there. The debris field, the dust clouds, and nobody would dare go in there but pirates. But you know what? You're going to go in there with your Trailblazer and you're going to see what's in there and see what opportunities are there for you. That's really exciting, and I love just giving each planet its own unique little signature in this game, because I think, again, that will help provide a little bit of that variety that you're looking for in the gameplay, Andreas, because I do think one thing that held LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga back, and I hate to continue to dog on this game, but it is a great comparison here for kind of an open world Star Wars game with the space component, is the only thing that really looked different when you showed up on these planets was the planet itself. There was no real variety to the environment you found yourself in when it came to the local space, and I do like that they're doing that here with this game.
Yeah, one thing that I'm personally really interested in is if you can use these special areas of space, like the asteroid field around Akiva or unregulated space around Tashara, to your benefit. For example, if the Empire is trailing you, I'm thinking, can you go full Empire Strikes Back and go into the asteroid field and try to shirk off the Empire that way? I'm really curious if they are giving us a sandbox where we can live out those scoundrel fantasies and reenact what we all experienced for the first time watching Empire Strikes Back with that incredible asteroid belt sequence. And speaking of being trailed by the Empire here, I want to direct us to the next quote, which reads, "So if you get into trouble on the ground and you manage to get away into space, you're still going to have that wanted level in orbit. And the same thing the other way around. Obviously, the Empire is not just going to let you get away." Nick, I'm really interested in this. This is honestly a very interesting concept that you're going to have to do a little more than just go from ground to space or space to ground to get away from the Empire. It's going to take a little bit more maneuvering to get them off your tail, and it maybe gives me a little hope that I can get that asteroid field fantasy that I'm looking for.
Yeah, the most interesting thing about this quote for me is we already knew that if you go ground to space with a wanted level, it's going to follow you up into space. We've known that for over a year now. We've known that since the gameplay reveal. We see that in that 10-minute gameplay reveal. But what stands out to me here is the fact that if you get a wanted level up in orbit, it will follow you down to the ground. The fact that it goes both ways is really fascinating to me. It's not something that I had considered. And I just wonder, like, how bad of a wanted level could you get up in space? And then, like, are you telling me when you land on one of these planets, there's just going to be like death troopers and ATSTs waiting for you outside your door of the Trailblazer? Like, that just kind of gets my mind spinning with how bad could you really make things for you up in space? Like, if you take down, one of those freighters or whatever one of the bigger Imperial ships ends up being, is there just going to be hell to pay once you get to the ground if you don't clear your wanted level? Just a lot of interesting dynamics going on there, and that is one mechanic I will definitely be trying out when we get our hands on our game. It's kind of like GTA 5. You kind of see how far you can push things. This is one of those mechanics that I want to see how far you can push.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to be pushing it with the Empire to see what the highest wanted levels will be throwing at you. And more on the topic of ground to space and space to ground, we have this quote here where it says, during that process, the Trailblazer goes through a blend transition in which it is held in place. Layers of cloud cover provide an illusion of descent while the engine loads the planet's surface. Once we finish loading, then we move you again back through the clouds, and that's when you fly it down to the planet's surface. We do a camera cut to the realization, and then you disembark at the location, everything being loaded. In motion, the result is as immersive as anything in No Man's Sky. Nick, I kind of want to pump the brakes here for a little bit, and I know we've been very excited about everything that's discussed in this article, but I'm kind of seeing a bit of a red flag in IGN's framing of this here, comparing this game to No Man's Sky, and this is something that a lot of people were upset about, particularly with Starfield, people drawing those comparisons to No Man's Sky. Of course, if you know No Man's Sky, you can freely fly from space to ground, ground to space, with no loading screens in between, and so I want to make very clear here that that is not happening with this game. There are loading screens. It is just hidden behind this cutscene. It is an on-the-rail sequence from space to ground and ground to space. It is not like No Man's Sky. And I would just caution anyone going into this game expecting that No Man's Sky experience.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Massive does a good job in this article kind of describing how this system works and how there are still loading screens, like you said, but they hide them behind things, familiar Star Wars things like the jump to hyperspace and all of that, and the transition into the atmosphere. But I agree with you. I don't love this comparison to it feeling as immersive as anything in No Man's Sky, because No Man's Sky, you could completely control the ship at all times. You could land wherever you wanted on the planet. You could fly wherever you wanted in or extra atmosphere. That is not the case with Star Wars Outlaws. You will pick a place to land, and then you will get a hidden loading screen mechanic or cinematic, and then you will land on the planet. Like, you're not going to be controlling the ship. You will not be flying it in. You're not going to be flying it in the atmosphere. I don't love this comparison. I get what they're going for, where it feels as immersive. If you just put the controller down, it looks the same, but it is not going to play the same. So I'm happy we're making that clear for people, because that is just not the case with this game. Now, to finish out, I want to just jump to this part about the customization. We talked about that in a very recent video, but here we get some clarity about what they were talking about when they mean we can customize the Trailblazer and what exactly we are going to be able to customize. This paragraph says, while most of the Trailblazer's design is set in stone, there's a certain amount of customization available for players. You can buy and upgrade offensive options, including a turret and various missiles. Of course, we saw the whole turret thing in the IGN Tatooine gameplay that everyone knows and loves. Continues with saying to help fend off anyone who'd try and steal away your smuggled cargo. And then there's some aesthetic options, including different color schemes and adjusting the ship's exhaust effects too. So of course, like we were all expecting, this is not going to be as in-depth as the ship customization in Starfield, where you basically could make whatever the hell you felt like making as long as the components existed. but you will be able to change the color schemes. I imagine it will be something similar to Jedi Fallen Order, and you will be able to change the ship's exhaust effects. That's really interesting, Andreas. Like, are we just getting something out of Rocket League here with this? Like, is it going to be the color? Or is it going to be the effect? Like, I think the fact that we can customize the exhaust, like they thought of that, I think that's just kind of interesting, kind of weird. Anyway, guys, let us know all of your thoughts down below on some of the new details we learned about the open world space gameplay. Are you guys excited to explore around and discover the secrets on these various space stations? Which local space environment are you most excited for? Is it Akiva? Is it Toshara? Is it Tatooine? Is it Kijimi? Or maybe even Canto Bight? It could be your favorite planet. Who knows? I don't speak for you guys. And let us know what you think about this ship customization, the fact that you can change, the color of the Trailblazer and the exhaust, but you can't change the actual physical appearance. Were you guys hoping to be able to do that? Or do you like the fact that, they went for an iconic design? This is K's ship, kind of like the Millennium Falcon is Han Solo's ship. Just let us know all your thoughts down below. You guys know we love reading through these conversations you guys have in our comment section, even though sometimes they get a little heated, but we love reading them nevertheless. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for us for this one. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, we'll see you all next time.